Okay, welcome to the Empowr podcast. I'm here with Augustine Diji today. Augustine is the founder of two brokerage firms. One of them we're here at today at Green and Grand, and we're going to talk about some real estate investment, property ownership. There's a lot of really, really interesting things that are super, super valuable. So, Augustine, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to spend time interviewing with you.
Yeah. So we'll kick it off. What are the dangers of taking out a credit line against your home? I know we kind of went a little bit about the interest rate. Yeah, because I think a lot of people recommend doing that, but
the danger stems from one, not having the ability to pay at some point because you've taken out more debt, and the inability to pay a mortgage can turn into foreclosure, which I experienced during the Great Recession when I almost lost everything, and everything around me fell apart. So, and I had too much debt, too many loans, the HELOCs and whatnot. I couldn't afford it when the market crashed. So that's the danger, having too much leverage and then being in a situation there's not enough income to cover it. The other danger could be too much leverage and then the equity doesn't grow enough, and then possibly the value is less than all the debt is on it, putting you in a negative equity situation.
So when you borrow against your house, are you compounding? Are you compounding interest? Or are you compounding? Is any of that compounding, or is it just you just borrow against the equity you have?
Yeah, you borrow against the equity you have, thereby increasing the debt on the property. In terms of how it calculates and compounds depends, but it'll compound significantly when you can't pay.
So the equity is the equity you already put in the house, or what the value of the house is on the market?
The equity is the value of the house on the market when the players decide what it's worth. That's the equity.
So you could buy a house back in 1920 for $30,000, and then in 2020 it's worth $500,000. You could borrow against the $500,000 that it's worth.
Correct. So
that's dangerous.
Pardon me?
That could be dangerous. Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because I just think the money, the house grew from your initial investment, but your money might not have grown, or your earned income, or whatever I don't know. I just feel like it could be risky, especially for people who maybe are a little bit older. I think a lot of places target older people to take out credit lines on their equity for their home. And usually when you're older, you start making less money than what you were when you were younger.
I think that's a very fair comment. And what you're speaking to is, when is it the best time to utilize that option of tapping into your equity? I believe if you are older, it's risky to tap into it, take it, and then if something happens, you could lose your home. When you're younger, you have more opportunities to succeed and fail and succeed and fail. The risk really rises from preparation. Everything has risk to it, but if you do your work, do your due diligence, and say, look, I'm going to borrow against this equity, $300,000. I've identified a property or a business or an investment that will yield me a bigger return than what I'm spending on the interest. So if I borrow and take out equity, and let's say it's $300,000 and the interest rate is 5%, and I find investment that will pay 10% on $300,000, it sounds pretty good. Hey, look, I'll take out the $300,000, little arbitrage, put it into this. I'm paying 10%, getting 10%. I take that 10% distribution, put it on, and pay that mortgage I borrowed or the whatnot, and I made an extra 5%. So it really depends on I keep repeating this word. It's that desired outcome and how you plan.
I know your firm helps people manage their debt and properties, right? One of your firms does this.
So I did do that, and see, I said did. So during the Great Recession, 2008 to 2010, I thought I was the man. Had all this real estate. I was had just, let's say, I'll speak from the real estate end. A lot of different parts of my life crashed substantially, but speaking from real estate, I thought I was the man. I thought I knew what I was doing, but truth be told, there was so much I didn't know. And my arrogance and my lack of knowledge and even some of my integrity didn't meet the needs to protect myself and others. So when the market crashed, I didn't have any money, and friends and whatnot started walking away from me, and I was in trouble, and it actually affected the marriage I was in at the time, but I was able to align myself with the right people to regain confidence and strength. Very important to have right people around you. And during that time, I was like, okay, I can't just let myself just fall into oblivion. I learned specific techniques to deal with the lender during a foreclosure process, which is a court process, to keep them at bay and to help negotiate loan modifications. Because at that time when I crashed, the lenders crashed, the banks crashed, because they were actually part of the crash. The way they did their mortgages, which is a long story.
Yeah.
And they were funded for their mistakes. Their mistakes were so widely known, or if you know what you're doing, you could defend against it. That knowledge allowed me to help probably close to 500 people keep their home. I was able to transmit, because I was able to keep my homes, I was able to then transmit all this unique information to them and their attorneys and professionals. This is what you need to do to keep your home, to modify it. And at the end of the day, you keep your home if it's in trouble by making a deal with the lender. And that's it. You have to deal with the debt. So from 2000 and I'd say 10 till say 2018, I definitely spent quite a bit of time helping people save their house. And that was actually quite rewarding. It's less of an issue now. Foreclosures are not like it used to be. More people have equity. Back then, when I was helping others, they had negative equity.
So they're giving out loans to
anybody. Loans as long as you had a pulse, you can get a loan. Well, of course, as you know, in New York City, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, all the boroughs has seen substantial increases in value. Yeah. So for those people I helped stave off foreclosure, all of a sudden the value of their properties passed everything they owed, giving them these opportunities to sit. The time helped them. So yes, I was involved in that quite a bit. Now I'm more focused in, for example, I help people with project development. So I'm a project manager, renovating 2-family buildings, bringing the team, the architect, the engineer, the contractor. I'm also a real estate broker, doing sales. I'm also an investor, own my own properties, sold one recently, a mixed use. We have a 4-family that we're in the process of renovating. So it's I love all areas of real estate and all discussions. Some people may approach me and say, I have a problem with my debt. What can I do to resolve it? And I'm primarily focused, well, what kind of deal can you make with the bank?
And so a lot of it's just advocating for yourself and trying to make a good deal with the bank, correct? I think maybe a lot of people who don't understand money get afraid because they're like, oh, the bank, they don't know. And I think a lot of people may even just walk away from the house and let it foreclose instead of trying to cut a deal.
Agreed. And that comes from lack of knowledge, and that's the bottom line. Do banks want to make a deal? Yes, they don't want to foreclose or take the property. But banks are only concerned about one thing, and it's money. So whatever deal that you make, it needs to provide a pathway for the bank to see its money. Whether it's all of the money they're owed, or if they're willing to take less, it's a pathway for them to see some form of, we need to deal with this loan.
So you have negotiation power.
I understand how to leverage negotiation power based on experience, speaking with banks, seeing others do it, and depends on the property owner and what type of what they can bring to the table to negotiate with the bank. And the key, go ahead.
What are some of the key, maybe the laws of negotiation that people should keep in mind?
Never give away your position all up front. always 100% of the time leave something to negotiate with. Always start low. Don't assume the other side is going to work to your favor. Think of your negotiating position and negotiate ruthlessly. Win-win is cool. Win-win is good, but no one will give you a free hand. No one is going to help you out and feel sorry for you. You make a negotiation mistake, you're going to pay for it. So it's plan your negotiation and don't be afraid to start low and not give away your entire hand. Sure.
What's two neighborhoods you see in New York City that are getting ready to turn and come up?
I believe the South Bronx is leading an effort to become better. I see the Bronx. It's that, well, who wants to invest in the Bronx? Well, the Bronx is actually growing. So South Bronx, I know there are areas of Queens doing great. I like, even though I don't know Queens has got that amazing neighborhood feel. And I believe people, as the world population grows and it concentrates its energy into New York City, it draws people for immigration reasons, job opportunities, creative reasons. I believe areas of Queens, but speaking to what I really know, let's talk Brooklyn. East New York is probably the final frontier. East New York, Brownsville, perhaps, primarily East New York. It's got so much land and so much real estate, and it's recently, in the last few years, it was rezoned to put up bigger buildings. So East New York provides an opportunity, and probably other opportunities are, like I said, South Bronx and areas of Queens that I'm sort of just feeling, but I can't specifically tell you.
So let's say, there's two other ones I want to ask.
Sure.
Let's say you had to start all over again today, starting from zero. Where would you start?
Investing?
Yeah,
Or-
or just real estate wise. So you want to get back into real estate. You're starting from zero, but you have all the knowledge you have now. How would you start?
I would solidify a group of financing options so I can strike quickly. I would make sure I have a group of professionals, contractors, plumbers, trusted ones, so when I'm ready to implement, I'm ready to implement. I would probably assemble a team that knocks on doors. And I'm sort of saying it like that assemble a team that does the research and really look at opportunities. Because one thing that's important with real estate is to be able to act. So even if I find an opportunity and then you discover it a month later, you might get it before me because I'm unable to act quickly. So it's the ability to just move quickly onto a deal. So I think I would have a team ready to move quickly and just go for it.
The first thing you mentioned, it was options for, what did you say? It was options for, was it for loans or getting money? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I would assemble that lending team.
Okay,
I would
lending team.
know who my lenders are. I'd pre-qualify. I would, whether it's with a lender, private lender, or hard money lender, or a bank, and be pre-qualified. So when I need to execute, say, oh, I'm gonna buy that property, I can come to the table, close when I say I can close, and get the financing. Financing.
Would you start with equities or cash flow? Equity property or cash flow property?
I believe that cash, since equity can change, you can calculate equity in the present moment. So if I have an appraiser come value this property and they say it's worth $3.5 million and I owe $2 million and that appraisal is dated today, I know I have $1 million of equity or whatever that difference is. But 3 months from now, if some country blows up and goes crazy and all of a sudden no one wants to buy in here, that equity could turn into zero. So I don't know. Cash flow properties are straightforward. I know what I'm collecting in cash and I know what I'm paying expenses. I am being relentless in lowering my expenses. I'm doing everything I can to increase cash flow. I'm doing everything I can to preserve the asset to minimize capital expenditures. I like cash flow because you know what you're collecting every month and you can work from that.
Okay.
Equity doesn't become useful unless exploited, whether it's a HELOC, home equity line of credit, or a sale. And what does a sale do? It gets rid of the asset. An income producing property, you always have the asset. And what can happen is with that income producing property, your equity can increase. So I'm an advocate of income producing property.
So what are the main cash flow properties? So is it just renting it out, doing a Airbnb, or like what are the different types of cash flow properties?
Okay. The different types are residential cash flow, having multiple units and they produce cash flow. There's commercial cash flow, having a business rent from your commercial space and getting your cash flow from that. The way you get cash flow through real estate can vary. Clearly, Airbnb, short-term rentals isn't a great option since the trends appear to show the demand is growing. And if you have an apartment that typically collects $1,500 a month, and then you can put it on a short-term rental, Airbnb being one of them, and you can collect $100 a day, $100 times 30 days, that's $3,000. That's the ways in which people are seeing great income through the management of Airbnbs. There's so many ways you can do short-term rentals. You can actually rent the top of your building to a wireless company that can put an antenna on top. So there are all these options in which you can create cash flow from the building. So it's exploration. It's knowing what you can do. Typically though, if it's a residential building, for example, the building we're in now has 3 apartments above, and we're in the commercial space. So the space we're sitting in collects business cash flow from the businesses. The residential apartments above collect rental cash flow from the residential tenants. And also, actually, I forgot, I'm glad you asked that question. And in the basement, we are renting a portion of basement for storage for 2 commercial businesses in the neighborhood.
Okay, so yeah, property is a good asset to have because there's a lot of things you can do.
Property is a good asset to have when managed correctly. There's so many options. That being said, you might identify a property in Queens that's dilapidated, 2-family, perhaps the owner's in distress, and they're willing to sell it to you for $300,000. You know you can put it a couple hundred and get all this value, and then sell it and flip it, and that's an equity play.
Where are key places to find owners in distress?
Oh, well, if we speak of New York City, Property Shark.
Okay.
There are many different owners in distress are typically owners who are in foreclosure because they can't pay their debt. And it's public information. And so when someone's in financial distress, they have all these aggregators where you can buy the list or see the list and target those owners because they become a little bit more susceptible to selling for whatever they can get.
You said Property Shark was a website?
Well, Property Shark is a website, and they aggregate all forms of real estate information. They have a foreclosure section that just tells you, oh, these are all the properties that a foreclosure case started. These are all the properties where it's going to go to auction, it's going to be sold.
Could you go to the person who's in duress and try to strike a deal with them?
You knock on the door.
Yeah.
Of course you could. You can go to anybody. Can you get a deal? Look, if someone's in distress and you come to me and say, hey, Augustine, I see that you're about to lose your property, what will my reaction be? I don't even know you. I don't know how positively I'd react. If you can come to me with what could seem like a solution to my problem, then I'm more receptive. If you're coming to me and say, hey, look, I want to get your property for half of the value, and you're in distress, it's hard to get someone to let go and say, look, I'm losing everything, and just walk away.
All right, and then if not New York, which two places you'd be investing in?
I'd invest in Buffalo, where I grew up.
That is New York.
I was thinking New York City. You're right. I'd invest in Buffalo, New York, because I know the neighborhood, and it's near Niagara Falls, near Canada, and I'm starting to see diversity move into what was not an extremely diverse place, and the entry into to purchasing a property is much lower than New York City. There are properties available for 50 grand, 95,000, 150,000. And I guess really it's areas I know. So Buffalo being one of them, and then I'd stay in the city. I will continue to explore neighborhoods that I've not lived in to learn, but I'm personally wouldn't jump into a deal unless I really understand neighborhood trends and probably be there.
Okay. And what was it? I guess one more question before we wrap things up. How can you tell when the market's tipping?
When the market's dipping,
Tipping, like it's about to roll over and crash, or just about to head into a recession.
so now you'll have different entities, brokerages, information aggregators who will show median price trends over a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year period. So if you see the median price trend continue to go up, and then all of a sudden that graph starts to level off, then you're saying, okay, it's slowing, the appreciation is slowing, and then you look at transaction levels, and if comparably transactions for, say, two-family buildings is lower than it was the year before, and then the year after continues to change, then you know the market's slowing. There's other people say, the market's slowing, and so you can also tap into great real estate professionals who are investors who've been around and can tell you, but there's information that will let you know the trend lines, and the trend is the trend, and it's real and it's psychological. So if people start thinking things are slowing down, what does that mean? Well, if things are slowing down, a homeowner is getting this vibration, I can't get as much as what I used to. And a buyer's understanding when the market slows down, I can get a better deal. So if you believe you can get a better deal, you might not feel so hard pressed to say, you know what, I got to jump on this. Market's slowing down, I'll be patient. That behavior starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you start seeing the market become what they call a buyer's market, and so you see the trends change. And then you look at the economy. The economy in general moves what people are able to do. So if the economy generally slows and wages haven't increased and savings are tight, then the ability to buy a property becomes less and less. And you probably understand that there are some systemic imbalances in this economy. Like, wages haven't really increased. I've read that maybe 30 or 40% of the people in this country don't even have $1,000 in the bank. All the new jobs are going to lower wage jobs. The gig economy, this new gig economy, which it's growing, and it's a new. We're transitioning. Like before was the agrarian age, and then we hit the industrial, and now we're in this information technology age. If you can understand the gig economy and its effect and whatnot, it can help you understand where the real estate market may be going.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask a final question. I guess where can people find you to get more information about your organizations, your company, social media, webpage, all that good stuff?
You can look up Augustine Diji Yoga, since yoga is a big part of what I do. The reason I mention yoga, health, wellness is that I found that bringing a health wellness practice into the business you do helps you really have more compassion and understanding of creating deals, and you're less focused on how am I gonna make all this money and more about, okay, how can I holistically make something happen? So you can go to my I'm in the process of creating a website.
Okay.
And but I have a website, luxornyc.com. You can reach me at adiji@greenandgrand.com. That's GREENE and grand.com. Email me at any time. You can email me at dijibusiness. I have lots of people email me questions, and I don't mind answering it. Dijibusiness is my general way in which you can ask me a question. It's dijibusiness@gmail. Ask me anything you want. I have to admit, I'm slowly but surely getting better with my social media and being more expansive. But I have lots of information. But I will say, Adam, that I really appreciate everything and your interview style and great questions, and hopefully that's really going to be informative to those people who listen to you. You're doing great work, and that's good stuff. But yeah, you can reach me in different ways.
Perfect. Well,
Yes.
thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes. And yeah, this is great, and we'll put it out. And remember, like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. All right. So we'll catch you on the next one.